This is Suzie. I copy.
Suzie!
Dusty Bun?
Dusty Bun.
Where have you been?
Welcome back to Director's Choice. When we first heard about Suzie in Stranger Things Season 3, most of us thought she was just a figment of Dustin's imagination. A girlfriend he had conjured up from thin air who was allegedly hotter than Phoebe Cates. In the end, Suzie turned out to be a real girl with a body and everything. She played a huge role in helping the Stranger Things group secure their victory in Season 3. And she also helped Dustin and the California group track down Eleven in Season 4. It's safe to say that Suzie has grown from Dustin's imaginary girlfriend to a reliable tech whiz who the Stranger Things kids can count on whenever they need help. Watching Season 4 and seeing Suzie again was great. So great that many fans didn't realize what was happening right under their noses. Are you prepared to find out? Let's get straight into the Stranger Things Suzie theory.
I will repent later.
Foreshadowing the end. This entire theory is based on the power of foreshadowing, and it highlights all the foreshadowing that took place in Suzie's house when the California group dropped by. Foreshadowing is one of the most powerful ways writers can communicate with their audience. It is a subtle hint that tells viewers what they can expect in the show's future. In most cases, foreshadowing goes right over the heads of most viewers. And this is one of those cases. The Suzie theory suggests that the events that took place at the end of Stranger Things Season 4 were foreshadowed in an earlier episode. The sword fight. When Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle enter Suzie's house, they search for her everywhere. But what they find is a bunch of troublesome kids playing around the house. These kids are Suzie's siblings, and each one of them will foreshadow the battles that will take place in the final episode. The California group walk through Suzie's house, encountering different kids, and the actions of each kid has a story to tell. The first group of kids the California team sees is two children having a sword fight on a table. This sword fight foreshadows the moment when Hopper uses a sword to kill the Demogorgon in the final episode. After Murray roasts the Demogorgon, Hopper picks up a sword and goes full Conan the Barbarian on the upside creature. And by the way, the sword Hopper uses to slay the Demogorgon is Conan the Barbarian's actual sword. First, he slices off the Demogorgon's arm, and then his head. This made Hopper the first person to kill an upside creature other than Eleven. And the sword fight that took place in Suzie's house foreshadowed this glorious moment.
Beautiful performance.
Excuse me? Hey, we're looking for Suzie.
Eddie's death. Eddie became a fan favorite character from the moment he debuted on the Stranger Things screen. Everyone loved his outgoing personality, and fans were heartbroken when he died in the final episode. For some fans, Eddie's death was something they had seen coming from the very first episode. Eddie was constantly talking about how it was going to be his last year, and that set off an alarm in the heads of some fans. In addition, he referred to himself as a coward, and often spoke about how he was no hero. It was evident that Eddie would end up sacrificing himself in one way or the other. And finally, Eddie was accused of all the recent deaths that had taken place in Hawkins. There was no way he could have gone back there unless he wanted to spend the rest of his life in jail. While many fans suspected that Eddie wouldn't make it out of the season alive, none of them could predict how he was going to die. But if you look closely, his death was foreshadowed in Suzie's house by one of her siblings. As Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle make their way through Suzie's house, they stumble upon a death scene that looks eerily similar to Eddie's death. One of Suzie's siblings is filming his sister, Tabitha, who is acting out a death scene.
Beautiful performance.
Excuse me?
She writhes on the floor as she screams that she has been bitten. This scene foreshadows how Eddie will die in the final episode. In the season finale, Eddie sacrifices himself to help Nancy, Robin, and Steve. As the three of them make their way to Vecna's lair, Eddie distracts the Demobats and is eventually killed. He lays on the floor as the Demobats feast on him, just like Tabitha, who also died from a deadly bite. Tabitha also holds her neck like she is choking. This could foreshadow when Eddie was choked by the tail of the Demobat, or when Nancy, Robin, and Steve were choked by Vecna's vines. Tabitha's choking scene also foreshadows the scene where Steve was attacked by Demobats at the end of the same episode. The battle with Vecna. Another scene that Suzie's siblings foreshadowed is the battle with Vecna at the end of the season. After Eddie's noble sacrifice, Nancy, Robin, and Steve were able to reach the Creel house in the Upside Down, aka Vecna's lair. At first, they are choked by Vecna's vines, but when they finally break free, they enter the attic where they see Vecna. Robin and Steve throw Molotov cocktails at Vecna to set him on fire. This weakens him and burns off his vines, cutting off his connection to the outside world. This scene was also foreshadowed in Suzie's house when a group of her siblings cooks a meal that bursts into flames. The flames also foreshadowed how Murray, Hopper, and Joyce defeated the Demodogs and weakened the Demogorgon in the final episode. Murray killed the Demodogs with a flamethrower, and the meal that caught fire foreshadowed this event. Blinking lights. Lights have been a major part of the Stranger Things story from the very beginning. In Season 1, Joyce used lights to communicate with Will in the Upside Down, and Nancy and Jonathan used lights to know when the Demogorgon was in the house with them.
Where is it?
Come on.
Flickering lights have always been used to announce the presence of a creature from the Upside Down. One of Suzie's siblings, a little rascal named Cornelius, tampered with the fuse box on many occasions while the California group was in the house. This caused the lights to turn on and off and foreshadowed the use of lights in the final battle. Lucas, Max, and Erica used light to determine Vecna's location in the Creel house.
Okay.
Lucas and Erica also used lights to communicate with each other during the finale. This is another light scene that was foreshadowed by Cornelius tampering with the fuse box. Sensory deprivation tank. Another set of Suzie's siblings who foreshadowed the finale of the season was Chef Peter and his taster. When Suzie's brother Peter prepared a meal, he offered it to one of his siblings, who immediately yelled about how there was too much salt.
Too much salt, Peter. Father's kidneys, father's kidneys.
This links directly to Eleven's need for salt in the final episode.
She needs a tub with a bunch of salt so we can enhance her psychic powers.
When Eleven realizes that they won't be able to make it back to Hawkins on time, she decides to fight Vecna in a different way, by entering Max's mind. To do this, they needed to create a sensory depression tank, similar to the one Eleven used in Season 1. This meant that they needed a lot of salt, a lot more than the salt in Peter's dish. Thankfully, they were able to find the salt they needed. They used salt from a pizza store to create the sensory deprivation tank. This scene was foreshadowed by the salty meal Peter had created earlier. The distraction. The last scene in Suzie's house that foreshadowed the events in the season finale was the distraction. In the finale, Eddie needed to distract the Demobats, so Nancy, Robin, and Steve could reach Vecna's lair in the attic of the Creel house. Max also sacrificed herself to keep Vecna distracted so that the team could enter his lair. This scene was foreshadowed earlier on when Suzie's siblings distracted her father. In both cases, the villains of the story were working from the top of their houses, with Vecna working from the attic of the Creel house, and Suzie's dad working from the upper floor of the Bingham house. Both villains also needed distractions for the teams to succeed. Suzie's siblings distracted her father so she could use the laptop, and Max distracted Vecna. This is more proof that the event in Suzie's house foretold the events of the season finale. That brings us to the end of today's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you believe in the Suzie theory, or do you have a theory of your own to share? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification button so you never miss a video. Also, check out this other recent clip by Director's Choice.